Today is a special day for a couple of reasons. One is we decided to change the name of the show from UFOs over Pittsburgh to the String Theory of the Unexplained. And I think it was appropriate at this point because we're not only talking about UFOs and local cases, we're talking about Bigfoot, the occult, demonology, everything that's unexplained. So I think that was really important. We changed the name of the show now, and I think that'll even have more of an international. We air this on a station in Europe, so this will have an even better flair to it. And the other thing is that at 4:22 this morning, 60 years ago, at St. Francis Hospital in the Bronx, New York, I was born. Bless you. I'm 60 years old. And the last thing I wanted to mention is we have our 5th annual conference up in Erie at the Bayfront Convention Center. It's Saturday, April 29th. Cheryl Coster, Kathy Martin, myself, Owen Eichler, Nick Pope, and yourself. We're going to be doing the conference, and you can register at MUFONPA.com.
Don't look a day over 50.
Don't look a day over 70, I've been told. And here's you gave me cupcakes here, right. So I'm going to put a candle when I get home, or this will be my lunch later, and we're all ready to go. So that's good. And the only other announcement before we get into today's episode, which is who's killing the ufologists. The one other thing we need to cover is our Erie UFO conference is coming up on Saturday, April 29th. Right. We have Cheryl Coster, Kathleen Martin, myself and Owen Eichler, Nick Pope, who's the British X-Files guy, and we have you talking about Bigfoot. So that's Saturday, April 29th. You register at MUFONPA.com. So let's get started, Fred. And we've talked about this a little bit in some of our other shows. I made a quick list of some big name people that had been mentioned as being knocked off, dying under very suspicious circumstances. Forrestal, Ruppelt, McDonald, Hynek, Mack, Turner, Cooper, Jessup, Schneider, Schiff, Hopkins, JFK, Pope John I, Philip Coppens from the Ancient Alien Show, 43 years old. The guy dies, right? John Murphy, Frank Edwards, Scully, Ivan Sanderson, Jim and Carol Lorenzen, Stanley Kubrick, Ron Johnson, and Ann Livingston from MUFON. Those are just some of the names.
You also have the, what was the name of the scientist out there who was working on the Star Wars program? Marconi.
Oh yeah, we're going to get into all of those.
We got like I don't know how many dead there.
Yeah, 22.
They all committed suicide. Right.
So what I did was I pulled this off, and I know you know a lot about this stuff, so we'll be able to talk about some particulars with this. But this was an article written called "Is Someone Killing Our UFO Investigators?" And it was originally written by Otto Binder, and it says the lifespan of the average serious investigator falls far short of the national average. Right. He said someone is liquidating the UFO investigators. Get this, in a 10-year period, 137 people in the field died under mysterious circumstances.
I've been trying to get that article.
I got it right here. Yeah.
So you with the 130?
Yeah. We'll go. I don't know if he doesn't mention every one of the 130.
That's what I want to know.
Here's the first one. I think he mentions the big names. Okay. And this is somebody we talked about. The first one was Phil Schneider. Right?
The underground facilities.
Yeah, 1996. He talked about the deep underground military bases, Dulce, the Greys, the battle, everything that took place. And he died very mysteriously. They originally said he had a heart attack, right? We did an episode on this with Hangar One, and then they found like a catheter wire or something. The guy was strangled. He was absolutely strangled. So, nobody can say that Phil Schneider wasn't murdered. He was murdered is what happened, right?
But then again, John, you all have to excuse my language here. I mean, I got a bit of a cold here.
Yeah.
But the thing is, who is doing the murdering?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, this is what we really got to look into. I mean, it's, I think they're still out there.
Oh, yeah, the branch of the government, whoever's doing this is still there. But, you got the military-industrial complex. You got people in the pharmaceutical medical industry who don't want cures to get out.
Right.
You got the CIA. What was the name of it? COINTELPRO was the FBI.
COINTELPRO.
Yeah, and then you had MK Ultra.
MK Ultra.
Operation Orphan.
And MK Ultra was broken into many categories.
Yeah, yeah. So this is Phil Schneider. His widow said intelligence agents thoroughly searched the premises shortly after his death and made off with at least a third of the family documents and photos. Another guy here is Ron Rummel, who was the ex-Air Force intelligence publisher of Alien Digest. He shot himself in the mouth with a pistol. He left a suicide note, and he smelled of sodium pentothal, and there was no sort of autopsy performed on the guy. Here's something interesting. Ron Johnson and if they mention her, Ann Livingston, both MUFON people. Ron Johnson was MUFON's deputy director of investigations, 43 years old, just had passed a physical, and he dies of a stroke. And he was working on UFO propulsions. He held a security clearance, etc. They said it's a good bet that Ron Johnson was eliminated by a quick-acting toxin like a nerve gas. And then here they do mention Ann Livingston, a nurse. She was home in Austin when Johnson died, and she was actually on a plane, and somebody else on the plane died of the same circumstances, and then she in 1992 gets visited by 5 men in black people, and then shortly after she's rendered unconscious. And then when she wakes up, etc., she later dies of a rapid advancing ovarian cancer. And she had said she had been previously abducted. So then we got Carla Turner, who we've talked about, Masquerade of Angels, Into the Fringe, Masquerade of Angels. She dies of a fast-acting breast cancer, and I tell you, in 1996, she didn't encounter aliens, though. When I read her book, and I've talked about this, those were malevolent interdimensional entities, and it's in my book, The Ufologists. I believe she was killed, I mean, she was attacked by demonic entities. A lot of these people misidentify it. They think it's alien. It's not alien, in some of them. Then he talks about MK Ultra and their involvement with cults. Danny Casolaro.
Danny, yeah, he's a conspiracy researcher.
Yeah,
and he was told that somebody got a call, and he told them that he was going down to. Matter of fact, he died in Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and allegedly he killed himself, and a lot of people still to today says no because he was working on.
That's software, right? There was a software
but he was doing
project.
several UFO no-pros like Pine Gap, Area 51, and the government stuff.
And some bioengineering.
Right.
Yeah. Then, I mean, there's other people here. I don't even know who they are. He lists the names, suicides, drug overdose, etc. But then he gets into this bizarre death of scientists, and that was really interesting. We'll get back to some of the UFO people, but this.
But you get back to UFO real quick here. Now you got Dorothy Kilgallen.
Oh, we're going to get to that. We're going to come back to it. Yeah. So then I pulled this other one here about 22 people working on the SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative. 22 people, British defense workers, were all killed. So get this. Auto accident, 45 years old. Missing person, 49 years old. gunshot blast, 49 years old, jumped to their death, 29 years old, jumped to their death, 24 years old, decapitated, 26 years old, suffocated, drug overdose, 46, asphyxiated, 46, asphyxiated, 43, 3 at car accidents. One of them is just 23 years old, suffocated at 24, car accident at 22, heart attack at 60, jumped to their death at 23, asphyxiated at 52, electrocuted at 60, electrocuted at 50, and suffocated at 33. They were all working for SDI. And
well, when you talk about that, one of the guys, Ashad Sharif, he actually got in his car, tied a rope to a tree outside.
oh yeah,
Got in his car, tied the rope around his neck, and then took off and killed himself.
yeah, and it probably ripped his head right from his body.
Then you got one that had, he had his, oh man. Another one, Elstar Beckwith was found shocked to death with electrical leads attached to his body and his mouth, stuffed with a handkerchief. And you had a couple of them like that. They committed suicide with being electrical stuff in their mouth and out.
You know, who would do that to themselves? Well, then you got the people that were the microbiologists, and I think that's the one you're referring to. These now are people that are working for Marconi Defense,
right?
And microbiologists. You know, and I'm telling you, this one is an article by Jim Mars, right? So he's talking about from 1995 to 2009, they're between like 28 and 50 years old, and these people all working on certain diseases, they're microbiologists, 72 of them in 14, 15 years, 72. Right. So you have 137, you got another 72, that's 200, then you got these, over 200 people in about a 15, 20-year people that are working in this field. So you get this guy, you know, the names don't matter because we don't even know who they are. 35 years old, working on AIDS, dies Pan Am Flight 103. This other guy working on Jacob's disease, dies of a car crash. 46 years old, hit by a truck, shot in the head, dies of diabetes. 46, car accident, plane crash, shotgun blast, cancer, working on AIDS, working on meningitis, 52, working on blood diseases, dies in a plane crash, dies in a plane crash.
Well, plane crashes is a good way to kill somebody.
Yeah,
so you use
but
a
you're
pulse
taking everybody else down too.
Oh, that's why I don't like riding on an airplane.
I know a lot of people who won't fly.
But if you ask them who else is on the airplane, they ain't gonna let you on. They're gonna think you're a terrorist or something.
Wasn't there that guy Brown with the government? Remember this?
Right,
he was on the plane. Somebody shot
Brown.
him in the back of the head, and then they took him down. That was with Clinton. He was going
he was in Bosnia. It happened in Bosnia, and actually the stewardess they said was alive when they got there, and then she happened to die along the way.
Yeah. And you know what's amazing with this? There was actually, we'll talk about Forrestal and them. There was a time frame there where the CIA actually put out a memo, internal memo to their people. If you're going to throw somebody out the window, the best thing is to be more than 6 stories high. And when you look at these people like Forrestal, he was thrown from the 16th floor and he hit the canopy on the 3rd floor. So basically he fell 13 stories. But they were actually putting out internal memos on how to do it, and you get it at that time. But you know, it's just unbelievable. I'm just going to quickly run through 59, working on hematology, plane crash. 41, biomedical expert, they found his body in his office. This guy, they found his body in the river. Microbiologist, stroke. He was working at Porton Down, where they do all the chemical stuff. This one, stabbed. 44, exposed to nitrogen and died in the lab. 2 more microbiologists killed by a bandit attack in Moscow. This one working on AIDS, killed. Got an intestinal bacteria in Moscow, bashed over the head in Moscow. Expert on environmental, died in his home. They found him wedged under his chair. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's running through all of these people. 38 years old, shot himself. 55, hit by a car. 63, airplane crash. Died while running, 49 years old. Heart attack, 52 years old. Working on SARS, 46 years old. Killed by Israeli agents. This one had a headache, complained of a headache and died, 47 years old. 59, cut his wrists. 46, crashed his Ford pickup truck. This one jumped a curb, 45 years old, died, was thrown from the vehicle. 54, killed himself. This one working on lung transplants. It's unbelievable. Heart attack, car accident, dismembered. The body was found dismembered, beaten to death.
Well, he committed suicide. Yeah. Body dismembered.
Yeah, body dismembered, and it was a suicide.
Right.
Was given an injection of Ebola. Suicide.
Well, look at Ebola. You know, again, I think we're talking about a lot of man-made diseases there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And with the Ebola thing especially, was it really what they said it was? If you remember the guy that came to the United States that had it, that African-American dude?
Yeah.
I don't think he even died. Because if he would have died and they would have had a funeral, that would have been the first thing on the news. We wanted to go to the diamond fields over there.
Yeah.
And that's how Ebola started. And a lot of this is AIDS.
Well, think about, also, wasn't Malaysia Flight 370?
There was a bunch of...
they all held a pattern for something at a company. All of the researchers were on that plane. There was a bunch of them, like 15, 14, a dozen. That plane went down. They died. The patent went to the company. Right. All the patent holders who were all going to be millionaires lost their rights to the patent, and it went to the. And so there was more to the Malaysia Flight 370. Nobody really knows what happened, but that was one of the things also. You know, but
there's a group out there that will take you out in New York Minute if they have to. Like you hear a lot of people say our government wouldn't do that. We got one of the crookedest governments in the world.
Well, you know, even Trump said, that, when we're talking about Russia, we don't do those things? Yeah, we do. We do the exact same stuff. I mean, that if you work for MI6, CIA, KGB, you have to have no conscience, and you have to, you have to get it done. And you just have to get it done.
And make it look like a suicide.
Yeah. You mentioned Dorothy Kilgallen. She was a famous, I think, British journalist, right?
Right.
And she broke, she was involved with Marilyn Monroe. She broke a couple of UFO stories, and she died just like Marilyn Monroe. With
also, she had allegedly talked to Monauban or somebody out in England, and she was also one of the only people who got to talk to Jack Ruby.
Oh, okay.
See, there was a lot of that.
She was a big name back then. That's like Barbara Walters. Yeah. She was a big name back then.
But she said, she was on a TV show, What's My Line? Mm-hmm. And she made the statement that she was going to be some breaking news the next day. And then that night she died from alcohol overdose.
Yeah, pills and alcohol, just like Marilyn Monroe. Right. I mean, come on. This guy here, Dr. James McDonald, he was I think his was a suicide. Right. I mean, he tried to shoot himself. He actually blinded himself, didn't kill himself, and then later, he was suffering depression. He was able to get his hands on a gun, and he put it in his mouth, and he killed himself. So I think in his case, he went up against the Robertson panel and stuff, and they really humiliated him. Oh, yeah. And he was a well-known scientist, and I think his was a suicide. I also think that Morris Jessup, who was an astronomer and archaeologist, he was the one, the book with the Philadelphia experiment. He broke the story on the Philadelphia experiment.
He died by a gunshot wound too, I think.
No, I think he parked his car and he put the gas, he let it run and piped in the gas. But I read his book. This guy was kind of strange. I could see him either this stuff played with his mind, or they were targeting him, with phone calls, nobody's there. They do things that scare you. I think he was another one that actually killed himself. Frank Edwards, right? Get this, June 24th, 1967, on the 20th anniversary of the Kenneth Arnold sighting, they were doing the World UFO Conference in New York City. Right. Him and 3 other ufologists died that same day. And he was going to break the story with not Ruppelt, I can't think of the other guy's name. He was going to break the story with them on the air at the conference about, you know, about the government cover-up.
Right.
He dies, and these 3 other guys all die the same day. I mean, Gray Barker was told, I think the night before, that Edwards would not be alive by the end of the conference. He was told that the day before, and he died that morning in the hotel room. That's unbelievable, you know?
Psychics.
Oh, we talked about Forrestal being thrown from the window, right?
You got Congressman Schiff.
Yep.
From New Mexico, when he brought out about the Roswell deal, fact-acting cancer. I mean, that, you know, that's known fact too.
It says here Republican Rouse, who was supporting Edwards against for congressional hearings, also died of a heart attack, just like Edwards right afterwards. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. So, you know, it says here, ufology is not a safe hobby. Some appear to be outright murder.
Well, I really believe today.
Well, how about your buddy William Cooper?
Oh, yeah, Cooper.
Yeah, he was outspoken, and the sheriff went to his house with a SWAT team.
Well, he got killed. He lived up on top of the hill so he could see everybody going up and down.
Yep.
There was people parked down the bottom of the hill. He went down there to tell them to get the hell off his property. As he comes back up, the SWAT team was there. And they had a gunfight. He killed one of them, and they popped him.
Why do you bring a SWAT team for disturbing the peace? They were after him.
Right.
They were after him.
You know, but they was afraid to do it. They couldn't figure out a way to kill him, so this is the way they used.
Yeah. Well, it's Stanley Kubrick. You know, he made 2001: Space Odyssey, right? But they said when he made the movie Eyes Wide Shut, that was a real movie where they didn't tell you who the real people in it were. But he said, if you knew who these people were, you wouldn't sleep at night. And they say Kubrick was killed.
He was, yeah.
And they said even Cruise and Nicole Kidman, their careers
kind of
went, they broke up, but their careers kind of went backwards after doing that movie. These were real high-level people that were portrayed in that, you know?
I think there's a group in the government. Okay, MK Ultra. Okay, you know what that really supposed to stand for?
What does the MK stand? What does it mean?
Okay, MK stands for mind control.
Oh, mind control.
Okay, utilizing lethal weapon technology requiring assassination. So most of the people, like even your lone gunman, why do they kill themselves after they do their deed? I mean,
yeah. Why would you kill yourself?
Why would you kill yourself?
To get rid of you, just like Jack Ruby.
Then you don't. Yeah.
The guy who kills Kennedy is killed.
Yeah. So you don't have to testify.
And people are so stupid. So I mean, there's person after person here. This guy worked on the X-Files. You know, you had John Mack, the Harvard psychologist, working on UFOs.
There's some stuff about John Mack still that ain't really answered. They're saying that he got run over in England by a drunk driver. And there's also information it wasn't John Mack as we know John Mack. It was a totally different John Mack.
Oh, it was a guy named John Mack, but it wasn't our John Mack.
And John Mack got killed over there, and they used that as the cover.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, Fred, there's, you know, anybody who doesn't think this type of stuff goes on, you know, they're completely wrong. I mean, this stuff does go on, and some of it's to protect secrets, but they're protecting whatever the UFO secret is, the satanic secret. There's some dark knowledge here that's being definitely covered up. You know, whatever the real truth of the story is.
I talked to a lady the other day. She's in MUFON too. I can't tell her name, but anyhow. She wrote a book about Bigfoot, and she's got an interdimensional, the satanic, this and that. Not one library in the United States has her book for an interloan.
Yeah.
Australia's the only place you can get her book.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, it's unreal. I mean, if you talk from out of proportion to where you're at, they don't want you around.
Yeah. Well, you know, this book I wrote talks about the interdimensional. It has a different ancient alien theory of ancient deities, and I can prove it. And other things in there talking about my demonic attack on me and stuff like that. You know, people are not interested in that book.
Nope.
I have 7 books. This is number 6 as far as sales go. The Apophis 2029, maybe because it was set in the future, is number 7. You know, hard to sell. This book should be selling like hotcakes, and it's not, because they don't want to hear about angels and demons and demonic entities and all of that. But I have stuff in this book that has never been mentioned. I tell people what is actually in the Ark of the Covenant, and I can prove it. You know, and ancient deity theory, not ancient alien theory. You know, but hey, that's the way it goes. You know.
But they don't want to, because some of them are afraid, and some of them said the government won't let this happen. It's like everybody really believes that when the earth ends, that there's going to be a big spaceship coming down and picking everybody up. I don't really think so. Yeah.
Well, you know who they're going to pick up? They're going to get rid of the Christians who don't believe, who are against the deception.
Right.
They're going to take them and dispose of them, and you can think that God took them, but it's going to be the aliens disposing of the resistance movement is what it is. But you know, you got the military-industrial complex, you got the medical industry, and you've got the CIA. So,
but the big thing right now, John, is the aliens coming down and taking souls.
You see, I've read that they can't, they're taking souls, not only people, they're taking your soul.
I had a lady, one of our cases from, I think it was Center County, where I was on a phone with her, and she told me the aliens were in her house. This was like 5 years ago. And I said, what do they want? She said, they're here for my soul.
Yeah.
And I said, put them on a phone. And they said they couldn't talk to me unless they controlled me, is what she said.
Yeah.
And then she hung up, and she was dead a couple of days later.
I agree with you. All right, we're out of time. So that's our first show under the new name of the String Theory of the Unexplained. It's okay to be curious. Don't obsess, and only through the eyes of death will you know the truth. That's our show, Fred.